And thank you for inviting us to come and to speak to your community here. So, I'm Linda Bloom. This is my main squeeze over here. This is my honey Charlie. And we want you to know that this is an opportunity for us to both announce to you about our new book that just came out. This one only came out in April. This is our new baby. And to tell you a little bit about it and to tie that in with the workshop that we're going to be offering the first Saturday in October. And they're closely related because this is the personal story. Our other books, they're self-help, and this is more memoir. So this is the story back in the 80s, a long time ago, thank goodness, when we struggled a lot in our relationship, and it's dark, it's shadowy, and we fought a lot, and we weren't really good communicators, and you know, we were therapists, but therapists have plenty of problems too in their relationships, and relationships can be demanding. And so we got out there on the raw edge, exposing our darkness. And we were empowered to do that because we were teaching workshops where when we told our before and after stories, before we got more conscious, before we discovered mindfulness, before we did serious spiritual practice, our relationship was more of a wreck. And after we got good coaching from Stephen Levine and his wife Andrea and Jack Cornfield, we really turned a corner. I personally was altered in a positive way because I calmed down my mind on fire. How the book revealing how you can do so many unskillful things in your relationship and damage it, and then how you can learn from those broken places to be stronger. And that's the material that goes into all of our courses. And I have a very personal style of teaching, and when I would tell the before stories, and people would say, gosh, you guys really screwed up. Look how happy they are now. We can do at least that well. So it seemed to inspire the people in the classes that you can go to dark places and you can come through and have tremendous learning, repair all the damaged trust and then some. And so we learned in the trenches. What we teach in our classes and what we offer to the people that we see is hard-won gains about resilience, about developing the qualities of patience and tolerance and respect for the differences, you know, and to learn from each other, to be each other's teacher and to be each other's student. Because the closer the relationship, the more the opportunity to have the live-in guru there. So we want to present a little bit of material about the book and a little bit about the workshop, and then we want to hear from you about what your questions are. So I'm going to turn it over. We're using the microphone so that it records well. Okay, he's got the booming voice. Probably be fine.
We'll see. If you have any trouble hearing me, let me know, and I'll get the mic. Perfect. Okay, thanks. Feedback. That's really an important part of this process, is giving feedback to people, particularly those people with whom you share important relationships. So that's one of the things that we learned in the trenches, is how important it is to give feedback and how difficult that can be, particularly when the news isn't what the other person wants to hear. So Linda mentioned a bunch of different qualities that we have to cultivate within ourselves in order to be qualified to have a great relationship. And one of them is to be able to receive the news without reacting or getting defensive, even when it's not what you want to hear. Because if you don't have a healthy, functional feedback loop in your relationship, there's very little chance that you're going to be able to have. You may continue the relationship, but it's going to be limited in terms of the depth that it can go. So if you're not, if you're one of those people who doesn't care whether or not you have a shallow relationship, you don't need any feedback. That's fine. You can just keep doing what you're doing, and as probably most of you know, there's a lot of people out there who are willing to settle for that. So, anybody here ever seen the musical Hamilton? If you haven't seen it, see it. Without a doubt, the best thing that I've ever seen in theater. And there are some lines in it that they just get kind of stuck in your head. And have you ever had that feeling with a song that you can't get out of your head? Well, one of the lines is, this is my favorite line, but it's not the one that I'm leading up to. I will not throw away my shot. I will not throw away my shot. And basically, that's from Hamilton. That's what he's saying. And basically what he's saying is, I've got this chance to really make an impact in a big way, on the lives of a lot of people, and maybe for generations to come. I'm not going to throw this opportunity away. What a gift. And that line shows up in a number of places, a number of the songs in the show. But the one I want to underscore here is a line that shows up one time between Hamilton and the woman that becomes his wife. And what he says to her is, you're like me. You're never satisfied. And she goes, I beg your pardon. She didn't take that as a compliment. And then he explained to her what he meant. And what he meant was that she's always hungry for more. She has this insatiable desire to expand her life and to expand her reach. And to really, no matter what she experiences, it's like, that's nice, that feels good, now what? And that's how Linda is.
Never satisfied.
She's never satisfied. And for the first couple of decades, I would say that to her in a very uncomplimentary way. It wasn't like, that's a good thing. It was like, Jesus Christ, will you get off my back? Can't you ever just relax and enjoy what we've got?
Yeah.
And she can, and she does. But
and then I want more.
There's always more. And so about 20 years ago, I kept saying, you're never satisfied. But I said it from a totally different place. I said, you know what I really love most about you? Because you're never satisfied.
Thank you.
I love that. Because what that does is that activates my own ambition, my own desire. I have a tendency to be complacent, let's say. I get satisfied pretty easily, and I have no trouble enjoying what I've experienced or accomplished.
This is a man who lives in gratitude all day, every day of his life.
Yeah, which doesn't mean that, I don't have any desires. It just means that I tend to focus on the blessings. I don't know, it's been part of my personality. I don't take any credit for it, it's just something that's always been there. But what I've gotten from Linda is that I can have that feeling of satisfaction and appreciation and gratitude and still work towards or play towards making it bigger, more. That's powerful. And I don't think I'm any different than most people. I think that I think that most people, when we can get past whatever it is that's between us and owning that desire, whatever it may be at the moment, or the ambition, if we can get past our resistance to accepting that, we're looking at our life, a world in which the possibilities are literally infinite. And what we can do and try to do together with people that we're working with is to open their eyes to that possibility and to see that the judgments that they have of themselves and of each other, that we all have, don't have to dictate the way they're going to feel and what their future is going to be and how they relate to each other in the future. That there are things about Linda that I still have some judgments about. But for the most part, those judgments have turned into appreciation. So when couples come to us, whether they come in an intensive, we do intensives for a couple of days with couples, whether they come as therapy clients, whether they come as students in a workshop, we work with them to move through the stages of moving from judgment, resentment, into acceptance, and then finally gratitude. That the things that that they had been critical of and resistant to judgmentally, that they actually get to a point where they not only can accept that, but they can appreciate it and be grateful for it. Now, I want you to just think for a second of what your relationships could be like, or what any relationship could be like when you get both people operating at that level together. It's like all they want to do is to make each other happier. The differences don't show up as problematic. They show up as part of what is in their gratitude bank. And that's our goal. We generally don't do that in one 1-hour session. Sometimes it takes 2. Sometimes it takes a weekend, or sometimes it takes 6 months, or whatever. But that's where we are. And that's what is in the book, in our last book, That Which Doesn't Kill Us, the subtitle of which is How One Couple Became Stronger at the Broken Places. We write about what that process was actually like for us, going through that over this 10-year period of time, that we were in the trenches, big time. And so we're not saying that, oh, this is the way you do it, this is how it's done. We're just saying, look, this is where we were. Our relationship was in the toilet. And somehow we didn't quit. We didn't give up. Largely because of Linda, because she is so committed to being committed that even when I was really in serious doubt and I could have walked, her commitment was so strong that it kept me in there until I finally got that activated in myself. And then we eventually became equal in terms of owning the commitment to the partnership.
So I want to give you some examples. I'm more of a concrete thinker. Charlie's got the big abstract, the broad overview, which I've learned a lot from you about, and I'm grateful for that. But I always really enjoy it when anybody who's teaching gives examples. So Charlie was telling you about feedback. We didn't understand what feedback was back in the day when we were attempting to communicate with each other. And when I was frustrated and I was disappointed in the way our life was going, I used to say things like, what the hell's the matter with you? What did you even get married for? You don't seem like you want to do this marriage thing. What did you have a family for? And you know, I was still loyal to my family of origin. That's how they talked. They just talked in judgments and criticism. And so that's how I was speaking. And I didn't understand that I was working against my own self-interest, that was not an inviting way to speak to him about how unhappy I was. And it was studying mindfulness and being with myself to drop down out of my judgmental mind into my heart and cultivating a warm heart of compassion, where I was able to bring my vulnerability and my tender self to him and say, you're working so hard, I'm afraid you're going to die. You got heart disease in your family. I'm afraid this 80-hour-a-week job, traveling all over the place, is going to kill you. And I could speak from a deeper place inside myself. When we were polarized, our relationship was awful, like Charlie said in the toilet. When we started to understand that the shadow parts of our relationship have our deepest life lessons in them, and that I had a lot to learn from him, and he had a lot to learn from me. He learned about commitment, hanging on, perseverance. It's really good to have. But I learned a lot from him about letting go. And it was Stephen Levine that taught me about non-attachment. And I had a major life-turning event when we went to a couples workshop in Brighton Bush, Oregon with Stephen and Andrea Levine. And I took Charlie to get fixed because it was so obvious to me that he was the one that was, you know, the perpetrator of the trouble in our relationship, and me, I'm an innocent victim here because I'm standing for the well-being of family life. And what the hell's the matter with you? And I knew he trusted them and respected them, so I took him to the workshop for him to get fixed, and I'm the one that got nailed to the wall. And Stephen said, looks to me like you're pretty attached to what your marriage and your family life is going to look like. I think you need some practice in non-attachment. And on top of that, I think you need to be doing some forgiveness meditation. Not just of him, because he's not, you know, your Prince Charming and your perfect husband, but of yourself, because I was miserable some of the time because I was irritable with the children, because I was single parenting a lot of the time, and I was worn out. So I was lonely for him, and I was scared that we weren't going to make it, and I was scared that he was going to have a heart attack because of the heart disease in his family, and I was really upset with myself. So when I started to learn that there was a different way to be in this relationship, I had to write a whole new scale for commitment. Do you know, the commitment that I was up to before was not enough. And the conflict management methods that I had known before were not enough. And I had to learn how to speak the truth without the blame and the judgment in it. And that was a pretty demanding discipline for me, because I was, you know, letting too much fly out my mouth. And so we let each other be each other's teachers. And we took turns being in the student role and being in the teacher role, and taking authority, you know, and taking leadership with the strengths that we have. So we offer that to the students who come to our class. And I just feel like I want to say something about, if you feel drawn to come to the class and you feel like, oh, I'm a therapist, I'm supposed to have it all together. We do not have anybody be on the spot that has to share in front of the group. Should a client of yours show up in there, a former client or a present client? And I realize that that's rather risky. Do you know, a lot of therapists don't, they're very private. But if you feel like you could be bold enough to come and still tell your clients about the workshop, there's value for everybody. And we have a whole spectrum. We sometimes have virgins in the class who haven't done any therapy and they've never done a personal growth workshop in their life, and they come, and then we have the people who teach this stuff. So there's something for everybody.
Let's open it up to questions.
Yes.
So your question can really involve anything having to do with the course, the book, relationships in general, Could be like a generic question, could be something very specific to your situation.
Or-
You can just tell us
or
it's
a
a
client.
friend, but you don't have to tell us it's you. But this is the part that I really enjoy most because it gives us a chance to address your specific thoughts and concerns and questions. So anything is on the table. Please.
I work with individuals who one partner would be so excited to do this and the other might be reluctant. How would you suggest a really eager partner present this?
We call that a mixed marriage.
Yes, to their not so eager partner.
Yeah.
What would be the script or themes that you think?
I'll speak to it. It's not always the woman who wants to come. And the man who's dragging his feet and driving with the brakes on. We, fortunately, have been in the field for a long time, and back in the 80s, it was always the women that wanted to come, and the men were
That's
reluctant.
really changing.
Yeah, and in the 90s, sometimes, we opened it up to whoever's interested can come. Don't try to nag him into coming if he doesn't want to. We will take half a pair, and then you can learn a lot of things and take it home. But if somebody, whatever gender they are, really passionately wants to come, they need to commit to it themselves. Get themselves signed up, and then, from a sweet place, not demanding or commanding, it would really mean a lot to me if you would join me in this. Because I think that we could grow and benefit and it would enrich our relationship and we'll have better sex and emotional intimacy and less fighting. So you appeal to their enlightened self-interest. There's a lot in it for you. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah.
There was another hand? Yes.
I was just wondering, in relationships, how much does sex correlate to a happy marriage?
You want to take that one?
What I would say is that we wrote a book called Secrets of Great Marriages. And it's the one with the red and white cover. And we interviewed quite a few couples who we found through various ways who had exemplary relationships. The average amount of time they were together was 31 years. Some of them were together for over 65 years. And so the ages ranged from like the early 40s into the late 80s. And without exception, in every relationship, there was an important sexual, physical component. Now, the people who were, up there in years, they would describe their sex life as being, somewhat different than what it had been 40 years before that. Because the body changes and there's limitations about what you can do. But in terms of the importance of that kind of connection, I would say that with just about all of them, it was an important
Very
ingredient.
important.
It's not
We didn't ask,
necessarily.
they volunteered
Yeah, they
that.
volunteered it when we were doing it. But it's not necessarily something that will cure an unhappy relationship. It is possible to be in an unfulfilling relationship and have good sex. But those are two different things.
On the other hand, if the sexual relationship is not humming along, sometimes people give up on the relationship because the sexual part of it is really important to them
Yeah,
before they give it a chance.
right.
Because they often have been shy or modest or reluctant to, maybe I'm going to hurt his feelings, maybe I'm going to hurt her feelings, and they haven't got good communication. So we've seen many instances where when the communication opens up and people, don't give up on the relationship because the sexual part of it is not working for them, that sometimes they can turn a corner. It's possible.
Thanks for the question.
Let's take one more question, and then we're going to shift it over to our other speaker.
Right on.
I have a question. What do you personally do to keep your relationship alive?
Well, I'll speak to it.
Okay, I'll jump in, please. Anything you want to add?
Charlie's the chief executive officer in charge of fun, because I tend to be a little given on the workaholic side. In the book, he was the flaming workaholic, and I was the stand for the family life.
We switched roles.
Yeah. So then, my career was on hold where I stopped doing therapy for most of 5 years, and I was like a racehorse in the starting gate. So when I finally got to get back to my career, it's like, I want to do it. And so he slows me down, and he signed us up with a trip to India. In April, we went away for 3 weeks. And I didn't take my laptop, and he didn't take his laptop, and I didn't think about what was going on in my office, and my clients have the good support systems they can do without me. And so we're changing the proportion. We don't ever want to retire, but we're changing the proportion to do more play and to do more creative expression and to just enjoy each other, like we go on trips.
You want to tell them about the daily practice?
Oh, we check in every day, and that's one of the things we offer in our classes, that sometimes relationships are not thriving because they're not connecting enough in a meaningful way. So every single morning, we get up and brush our teeth and pee and get right back in bed, and we have skin time, and we talk, and we cuddle, and we think about what's going to happen in our day. And I am so lit up. I've got full soul tank. And I say, come on, world, whatever you got for me. Our website got hacked. I just found that out this afternoon before we left the house. But, my most important value is I'm connected to my partner, and we'll get it fixed. So aggravation keeps coming.
What question do you ask when you check in?
We don't so much ask questions about what we do, is we just check in with ourselves first, and each one of us responds to our own question, which is, well, where am I right now? What's my mood? What am I experiencing? What are my thoughts? And every day, it's unique, Like some days we'll wake up and there's concerns or worries in our mind. One day we'll wake up just feeling, incredibly energetic. I can't wait to get out of bed and get moving and go to the gym or do this. But we share. We check in and then we share whatever's there for us. And we go back and forth with that until we feel complete, which, take anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes sometimes. We got to grill early, so that's not a problem in terms of eating away at other things in our life. Even if it takes a long time, we're both out there and dressed and ready to go by 6 o'clock.
And there's always a sweet piece. The first thing he hears in the morning when he wakes up is, "Good morning, my love."
Yes.
To be intentional about gifting the people that are important in our life. Thank you
And the
very
first thing
much.
that Linda hears is, what's for breakfast?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.